Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Greg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. I brought one of my favorite people, Steve Fretzin, on to discuss something that a lot of lawyers need to hear. But before I do that, I'm going to ask myself my own trivia question, which was not a trivia question, but my own personal question. Name me my four favorite coaches. A lot of you know I love sports, whatever. So Don Shula, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and number 4, Steve Fretzin.
Hey, I don't even have a football club.
Yeah, but you're a coach.
How are you doing? I am a coach. Doing fine. Really having a very productive day. Heading into the weekend. You mentioned some cocktails, maybe you didn't. I'm thinking about some bourbon and what I'm going to have after we're done today. So yeah.
Nice. I've got, it's cut to the chase, so I can't go down that bourbon wormhole or whatever. All right, So listen, a lot of lawyers out there are like, wow, I'm such a good lawyer, but I'm not making any money. And you're ready to go solo. You're tired of working for the big man. You're considering leaving your firm. You're feeling weighed down by your bosses. You know you can do better, but you're like, I need to figure out a game plan. Or maybe you're already there and you're just like, God, I'm so good, but I can't make any money that's going to make me happy. What do you do? Steve, we're going to call Steve, but let's talk about what you do for lawyers and what your gig is.
Yeah. And I think with lawyers, money isn't everything, right? I think it's maybe the lifestyle. It's having enough to provide, but like, are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you enjoying the roles that you have at your firm? Which we can get into, but I mean, just to give a little background, I'm a lawyer coach who got pulled kicking and screaming into this industry back in the recession of 8 and 9. And found that the way that I'm training and coaching lawyers in a sales-free way to do business development or sales, whatever we want to call it, really hit the mark. And I've just made it my passion and my mission to help as many attorneys around the world to live their best lawyer lives, not by being great lawyers and practicing the law. That's sort of the table stakes, but it's really about how are they developing their brand? How are they building client relationships? And how are they building a practice they can be proud of, or maybe one that could be scaled up in such a way that it could be their retirement plan. So lots of different elements here, but ultimately every lawyer, it's you Inc. in the sense that whether they're at a firm or they're on their own, it's their business. Their life is their business and they need to make the most of it. And client development now plays an important role in that freedom and control that lawyers are looking for in their careers.
All right. So why is it the case that, hey, I went to law school, I got good grades, I got into a big law firm and I was getting good results. And I'm like, it's still not happening in the client development. Why aren't the clients just calling me up? I thought that was the old tried and true way, word of mouth, all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm a good lawyer. They should be calling me, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So it's everything they never taught you in law school. I think there was a book with that title probably. And ultimately it's the business of law. So business development is one aspect, branding and marketing is another, how to develop people and leadership and scale. These are all different skills that you need to go outside of the traditional law school or even law firm model to pick up on the business side of things. So this is why people get MBAs. I'm giving lawyers an MBA in business development so that they can develop that skill. And it is a learned skill. It's not, hey, there's a natural born rainmaker. There's less and less of those and more people who are doing it because they're following proven methodologies to grow business than what a great personality at the golf club and glad handing and all that kind of stuff that worked in the 80s and the 90s. So that's really the thing is like, be a great lawyer. Yes, that's job number one. You can't suck as a lawyer. Then the second thing is, how are you doing at developing relationships and ultimately business? And if you can put those two things together, you can decide, do I want to be on my own? Do I want to be at a firm? Do I want to go in-house? Do I want to whatever, start my own business? You have that flexibility because that skill is what pays the bills.
All right. So as a coach, are you just doing lawyers? I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, kicking and screaming.
Yeah. Now I'm just screaming. I stopped kicking. Um, I've worked in over 50 industries. I worked with the JUF in Chicago. I worked with Chicago Tribune, Canon, and hundreds of other entrepreneurial type businesses. And lawyers trickled in 2008, 9 and took over my business in over about 16 months. And I just decided I'd rather be a big player in a small field, in a small, on a small field than a small player in a big field, like sales training. So the idea is that everything matched up, lawyers and me and my methodology and the way we get along. And also I was teaching them how to specialize, right? The niches and the reaches are in the niches. And so I hadn't pulled the trigger myself. And so when I did, it's like unleash the hounds. And I just, all my marketing and all of the things that I'm doing, I've been focused on helping lawyers, and I've never looked back and I've never regretted it for a moment.
All right, a couple other, clarifications on who you provide services to. Are we doing transactional, civil, criminal, family, probate,
Yep.
mass torts?
Yep.
Or is it just, are you really like your sweet spot, one particular type of the law?
No, it's only lawyers, and it's every practice area imaginable in every state and every country that exists. The big area of focus for me is I'm only working with highly motivated and highly ambitious attorneys that want to grow, that draw a line in the sand and say, you know what, I'm tired of the status quo or failing. I want to win. I want to win every year. Every year is my best year moving forward. And that's what I'm looking for in the lawyers I engage with. In addition to that, I would say I'm only doing two things for lawyers. One is coaching and training in a very intensive MBA style program, classes, one-on-ones on full retainer. Again, the goal is to double, triple books of business and keep them sustainable. The other thing I do that most people don't know about, Greg, is I run peer advisory roundtables for successful lawyers, rainmakers, and managing partners who are already kicking ass and they want to continue that journey, but they want a facilitator who's going to put them in a room with 10 other very smart attorneys that are successful running firms so that they can share ideas, they can help solve each other's problems, they can network, and they can do that all in a confidential environment. It's like a family outside of your firm, and I'm running those, and that's been an absolute pleasure as well.
I mean, I actually did attend one of yours early on, and perhaps I was very quiet and shy, and that's why you forgot that I was there, but that's okay. All right. So, also, I started off the program promoting you as someone that can help people, make more money, right? And you kind of morphed it into, being, I guess, happier as a lawyer, which might, in many respects is making more money or not. But maybe some people out there are making a lot of money, but they're unhappy. And they know, they're like, listen, I'm a lawyer. That's all I know how to do. Do you provide coaching to those, that set of characteristics?
I would say that I would evaluate a lawyer and what their needs are to identify if I'm a good fit as a coach for them, or if it's better to hand them off to, one of the dozens of other resources I have. So let's say, for example, someone is looking to come up with a retirement plan over the next 5 years of how they're going to exit the law. I'm probably not the right person, right? If they're looking to scale, they want to bring in and double and triple their size. I can teach them the business development, but when they get that down and they want to just build it out and that's their focus, well, they might need some interim COO, or they might need, someone that can help, in leadership to help them actually scale and build out the business from 10 to 30 lawyers or 50 lawyers. That's probably not my jam. So I'm in a position where I'm looking to help individual lawyers take things to the next level, and managing partners and rainmakers continue to drive that forward. In my roundtables, though, and I don't think we did this when you were there, but I do bring in guest speakers that can talk on these subjects. But ultimately, if somebody needs someone, like, I'll give you an example. I've got a client I talked to today, and he's looking to bring his marketing in-house into his firm. And he doesn't really know how to do that. He doesn't know how to manage that. So I said, hey, let me get you in front of a few CMO, like interim CMO managers, like people that do that for firms. And then they can run it for you for X amount a month. And then it sort of takes you off of this, out of the spotlight of having to figure it out. You've got someone that's now on your team for 6 months that can actually help build out that infrastructure. So I think it's important for me to clarify, when I interview and evaluate someone, the problems and challenges they have are things I can solve and that I can work with them on. Or if it's not, then I'm in a position to help be a resource.
All right, so let's talk about the typical things that lawyers are struggling with that you can help them out with.
Yeah. And if we're talking about, generally business development, coaching and training, it's going to be they don't have a plan, or it's a plan that was written through the firm that's immediately shelved, that really doesn't get into actionable tactical things they need to do. They don't have an approach to networking, infomercial targets, how to identify who their targets are and who they should be spending time with. So they're just out meeting with everybody. They may be meeting and getting in front of decision makers that say, this sounds great. We love you. We'll think about it. We'll get back to you. And then they get ghosted. So how do we actually lock up the business and make sure that it's real and then it's happening? And then how do we make sure that our clients stay loyal to us and in a way that's going to provide that relationship for 5, 10, 20 years where they would never think to leave. So it's like cradle to grave of all the things that lawyers are not taught to do anywhere. And so like, it's interesting because when I teach classes every Tuesday morning, and I've got attorneys from around the world in this class, and I do a thing called a hot list. And the hot list is like an open forum. Like, what are you going to bring to the table this week that is a challenge for you? And it changes every week. Last week, it was, how do I cross market more effectively? And another topic could be, all right, so I've got a new potential client that needs to talk to their boss, and how do I handle that? Because I don't have a relationship with the boss. And so it's like, we can, break those things down and give takeaways and ideas that they hadn't thought of. And we do that as a group. And it's nice because I've got new people in the class, and I've got people that have been there for 4 or 5 months. And I enjoy watching the attorneys that have been there a while start to teach the newer clients. And that's how I know they've really learned it and internalized it, which is fun as a coach to watch.
Nice. All right. Well, let's talk about the lawyer you basically, I think, describe one component of your target client as someone who's motivated, right? Obviously, if somebody's calling you up and like, whatever, that's not going to, but what if they're like motivated, but they're shy, right? And you're going to say, you got to get out there, you got to do whatever, you got to be involved and go to round tables and talk and all that. I mean, can you work with that kind of characteristic?
Believe it or not, Greg, it's sort of like a specialty of mine. I have a friend that's a coach, a lawyer coach. His specialty is working with jackasses. Like if there's an egomaniac jackass lawyer and he wants to work with me, I'll say no, and I'll turn him over to my friend. But I work really well with introverts. And the reason that I work well with introverts is, what are introverts really looking for when they're looking to get, business development done? Systems, process, and things that are proven. They don't want to wing it. They don't want to have to go outside their shell and be the lampshade on the head at the party person. That's not going to happen. So what I do is I just say, hey, let's plan within what you're comfortable with. So going to big events may not be for you. Let's talk about small events, or let's talk about one-on-one networking. Can you do that? Oh, I'm great one-on-one. All right. So we figured that out. And then it's just continuing to give processes and steps. Step 1, do this, say this. Step 2, do this, say that. And it's all things that they can do. And then if there's a pushback and they say, well, I'm not comfortable saying it that way, well, we customize it to that individual. I've got an example for you, Greg, if that would be helpful.
Excellent. Yes.
All right. So I'm teaching a lawyer how to get introductions from their existing clients, which is a super scary thing to make that ask, right? They're already giving you work. And now you're going to go ahead and ask for something else. So some lawyers that have amazing relationships with their clients, they've saved the day over and over. They can say something as blunt as, look, you've been gloating about me for years now. I know that there's people, Greg, that I could help the same way I've helped you as your lawyer. Can we just have a 10-minute conversation? I'd like to talk about some of your CEO friends that I should be talking to because I know I would work well with them. Is that cool? And the person say, yeah, of course. What do you want? And they'd sit down. Now that is an introvert. I might as well say, go climb Mount Everest, because that language is going to absolutely terrify them to death. However, what if we change the language? What if we said to an introvert, look, you're going to ask your client, who loves you, by the way, loves you, for an introduction, but you're going to do it this way. And I call this okay, not okay. That's a silly title. So it's Look, Greg, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. It's taken me months to even get up the courage to bring this up because it goes against the grain for me. But listen, I know you've been very happy with the work, and I hate even asking, but I'm in a position at my firm where they're looking at me as a leader. I need to continue to try to bring in new clients and get our firm, keep our firm busy, and people seem to love what we do. And I would really appreciate if we could have a conversation just to talk about some potential CEOs that you're friends with that we could talk to. But if I'm stepping over any boundaries at all, or you're uncomfortable with that at all, let me know because I'm feeling just awkward and awful even bringing it up. Now, the client that's this one example, okay? But think about it from the client's perspective who loves that lawyer. That client is gonna frickin' fall all over that lawyer to help that lawyer. I can guarantee it. I've seen it happen dozens and dozens of times. I get the call a week later, Steve, you won't believe it. It worked just like you said. Because good people want to do well for other good people. And when someone is a great lawyer, it's like saying, I've got the top brain surgeon in the world and you need brain surgery. Wouldn't you want to know my guy? Like people are excited to introduce good lawyers to their friends if they know it's going to make them look good. So that's sort of an example of how an introvert can wrap their, head around business development. And again, just kind of being themselves, honestly, and admitting that this is uncomfortable is a great way to go.
And I think that people like to be a resource, a positive resource for others, not only just in their specific skill set, but they want others to know that, they can call them up for advice, to get information and all that. So now I want to segue to the next section of our discussion, which is resources. You have a lot of blogs, videos.
Yeah.
Steve has written 4 books. And one thing that I suggest anybody that's, hey, it's kind of like it, I'm not sure, whatever, maybe schedule a vacation, buy one of his books and go to the beach and read his book and then call me back and tell me what you think. All right. So now we're going to go on to one of my favorite resources, which is the world of podcasting. You are also a podcaster. You had me on last week or whatever, and I appreciate that. We both learn from each other. We both make connections. You introduced me to Darren Wurz, financial guy, Chelsea Williams, quick, accounting, bookkeeping, which I desperately needed. And it was like I could have been like but I trusted you. Okay, so let's talk about podcasting. What has the world of podcasting been like? What have you experienced, learned? What is it? What are your takeaways on it?
So I've never in my life wanted to be like a comedian or get on stage or be a performer, an actor, or anything like that. And it just was never for me. However, there's something about podcasting that is 100% for me. I love interviewing people. I love asking questions. I love taking things deeper. I love pulling out the gems so that the people that are listening, and I can feel that I'm in their back seat with them. Hopefully they're in the front seat. I'm in the back seat and they're listening to this conversation where they're smiling along with us as we smile. And they're getting a takeaway where they go, holy crap, I never thought of that. And if I actually did that in my law practice, in my business, that would change X, Y, Z. And so from a standpoint of content creation and giving value to a community like the legal community, I couldn't be more proud. And I know when people put together really good podcasts with good quality sound, good guests, good interviews, like you do and I do, I believe, right? Then people can really enjoy it and get that. From a selfish perspective, I have gotten and developed more new relationships in the last 4 or 5 years since I've been doing this than I maybe did in the first 15. I know all the top legal experts in around the world. I've interviewed some of the top rainmakers. I've actually had some of them that go, Steve, what you're doing is super interesting. Let me send you some of my lawyers to work with. Like it's developed business, it's developed relationships. And there's just so many positive benefits if you can do a good job and stay with it. You can't do 5 or 10 and give up. Again, if it's not for you, give up quickly. But if it's something that you really enjoy and you're able to get benefit and give benefit, it's just the most powerful medium. I absolutely love it.
And Be That Lawyer is your podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So also, like some people don't like reading books anymore, whatever. They're driving around, pop on that podcast. There's a ton of shows, episodes or whatever, where you can see the little, the short little summary at the beginning and say, hey, that's for me. I'm like fired up about tech. I'm fired up about rainmaking. I need to know about this. And boom, in 40, 30 minutes or whatever, you're on your way to work or you're driving around or whatever. It's a great thing to do. I agree with you. The relationship development for podcasting has been unreal. And I would imagine maybe some of your potential clients, that's something that they can do. And, I'm sure you could, kind of walk them through those steps. All right. So we're going to end this episode because we're truncating it due to theater, and you saw
some action. You got some action behind you.
Yeah. So I want to hear, and this is another reason why I love podcasts. I can, get a book, I can research or whatever. I got all these questions, or I could bring someone like you on and say to you, I want to know Steve Fretzin's 4 best tech tools and why and what they do.
Well, I'm no technology expert, but I will tell you that there's a number of technologies that I use and that I get to my clients that I think are so critical. And most of them are around time management, because I'm not going to talk about different softwares for, CRM, client relationship managements. Of course, I love Lawmatics and use Lawmatics, but I would say here's number one. Number one is you have to get away from scheduling things manually, meaning, hey, Greg, love to meet with you for lunch. What's good for you? Oh, I don't know, Steve. I'm busy. What's good for you? And we go back and forth. I have 6 to 10 meetings a day, every day. Okay. If I had to do the back and forth to get those meetings, I would do nothing else. So auto schedulers like Acuity and Calendly are game changers. Time management for lawyers should be taught in law school. It's taught by me. There's books like David Allen's Getting Things Done that I highly recommend. All of my clients need to get their action together on their time management and get some softwares in place that are going to help you. So that's number one, is Acuity, Calendly, some kind of integration where you've got your calendars being scheduled automatically. Send someone a link, let them deal with it. It'll be fine. It makes it easier for everybody. I wish I had that in my personal life like I do in my business life. Okay. The second one that I would say, there's an add-on for Outlook for Google Mail called Boomerang. And Boomerang, what that does is it allows me to have really good follow-up. So let's say, Greg, I'm trying to talk to you and I'm sending you an email and I know you're busy or you're on vacation, and I set up Boomerang that you're going to, that if I don't hear back from you in a week, that it's going to pop up in my email that you haven't responded. Then I know I can reach out to you again. Otherwise I would have just forgotten. And then eventually you'd be like, hey, Steve, what's going on? So the idea that I've got this Boomerang that allows me to follow up effectively with people when they don't follow up with me, and not that you would ever do that, Greg. Of course, you're a great follow-up. But the idea is that we want to keep control of that. Okay. So that would be number 2. Number 3 is a little bit of a different one. I am 100% paper free. And the reason that I'm paper free is because of this remarkable tool called Remarkable 2. This is a paper tablet that I use for everything. Every note I take, every meeting I run, every interview I conduct is done through this tablet, which means I have no paper. I don't have a Post-it note. I'm looking around. There's nothing. I could show you. There's nothing around. Okay. Everything goes into here. Everything is in a file in a folder. So if I need to talk to you, Greg, and I need to talk to you 30 seconds before you and I pop on, and I need to remember everything about our conversation, I can pull up your file, pull up my notes, scan through it 30 seconds before you pop on the call. And I can ask you about this, this party you're having tonight, or this great vacation place you're running, this former, camp that you're in or whatever, because I have all that information right in front of me. And lawyers need to get organized in that way. And I think then they'll be super happy and satisfied. It's not the cheapest tool, but the way I think of it is like, if I'm a surgeon and I'm complaining about the cost of a scalpel, I got bigger problems, right? Get the best scalpel. It's someone's life. You're going to want to have the right scalpel. This is your business. You're going to want the right tools. So that's 3 out of 4. Is that okay? We stop there.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I don't want to really show you what's going on with my table, but no, I without hesitation will accept all of your recommendations. And I got to say, thank you for coming on. You came on short notice. I had 2 cancellations this week, which they didn't even show up. They didn't even tell me they, come up with
What the
some
heck?
whatever. But,
Not cool.
and you're important, you're giving critical information that can help a lot of lawyers help themselves and help their clients. Fretzin.com, I'm assuming, is the best way to find you, all your researches, sources, and also to do, I think, what's the most key takeaway here. If you are at all, like maybe this guy can help me, book a call. It's free. You go to his website, you use his technology, and you boom, Calendly it, and the next thing you know, it's on your calendar. How did that happen? I didn't even have to pay anybody to do that. Thank you for coming on to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Greg.
Enjoy your weekend.
You too, my friend. Thanks again. I appreciate you having me.
All right, that'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. Subscribe, rate, review. If you want me to bring Steve back and you've got a couple more questions, go to my YouTube channel and, just drop them in the comments and we'll get him back on here. All right. So that'll do it, folks.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.